graphic nature of this program, listener discretion is advised.
So I just finished watching In the Heights by Lin-Manuel Miranda on HBO Max. And I gotta say, as a Puerto Rican who grew up on the Lower East Side of New York City, the movie made me extremely homesick. There's a great scene in the beginning where the main character, Usnavi, he's sitting at a beautiful beach with his kids and he's saying, Washington Heights, say that name so it won't disappear. And boy, did that hit home, sort of talking about the gentrification of Washington Heights. And, you know, whenever I go back to the Lower East Side, I see things. It's not the place I left. It's not the place that I grew up in. None of my friends could afford to live there anymore, except for those ones who moved into their grandparents' house when their grandparents passed away. So that certainly hits home. Now, the main character of the movie, Usnavi, is from the Dominican Republic, but there's plenty of representation from Cuba and Puerto Rico, pretty much the Caribbean Hispanics. And I do say Hispanics. I know on the West Coast they say Latino. I prefer Hispanic. And they give a shout out to Mexico also. And they compare Manhattan Island to being their new island from Cuba, Dominican Republic, or Puerto Rico. It's their new island, and Washington Heights is a predominantly Dominican area, and it's way, way in the upper west side. I hate when people call it Inwood, only that's a new gentrification term. No one calls it Inwood, it's Washington Heights, and it's basically right before you get to the George Washington Bridge and go into New Jersey. Also, growing up in New York, seeing that this film most of it was done on location, I couldn't help but think, wow, what a pain in the ass there must have been for them to shoot, for both the residents and for the people actually doing the production, for them to shut down the streets on a daily basis and what looked like the summer. But that being said, you know, I certainly know the headaches of having your street shut down from a production, whether it be a TV show or a Hollywood movie. Without spoiling anything, there's even a post-credit scene where the Piragua Man, and for those adobo impaired people, a Piragua Man is a guy who walks around with a big block of ice, and he shaves the ice and he puts it in a cone, and they put all types of flavored syrups, you know, coconut and cherry, lime, raspberry, blueberry, whatever. And so, you know, when you see the Piragua Man, and, you know, when I grew up, it was cheap. It was like 50 cents. I think it eventually went up to $1. From an earlier joke in the movie, it's the Piragua Man versus the Mr. Softy, the ice cream truck, which there are plenty of several different ice cream trucks in New York City, but the Mr. Softy is the #1 corporate one. So it's sort of like the little guy versus corporate. And I'm really surprised that Mr. Softy signed off on having their likeness being used, but it wasn't, you know, it was all in good fun. Showing piraguas versus the ice cream trucks. And so now for the reason you clicked on this video. A while back, I was watching this documentary. It was a PBS documentary on YouTube, and it was called In the Heights, Chasing Broadway. And it was a PBS documentary documenting them putting the show together. So this is like 2007, 2008, and it shows basically Lin-Manuel Miranda way before his Hamilton fame, and how they're getting the production in order. Now, the first thing that I noticed was when he was going through some notes with one of the people who was working on the production, he was wearing a shirt with Destro on it. And I know Lin-Manuel Miranda is a little bit younger than I am, and it was Destro from the 80s G.I. Joe cartoon. I understand G.I. Joe goes a lot further back, but Destro being the 80s reboot of that whole toy line. And I thought that was quite interesting. You know, it shows that he has sort of a nerd cred to him. And then later on in the documentary, actually on opening night, the camera's following him and someone's visiting his office, his dressing room, excuse me. On the door to his dressing room is also a G.I. Joe poster, except now this one with Cobra Commander on it. So I think he has a flair for the bad guys in G.I. Joe, wearing a Destro, because Destro was second in command, and Cobra Commander was the leader of Cobra the bad guys in G.I. Joe.
It's sort of neat right now. This looks like a mess, but this is actually the neatest it's been. I sleep up here between shows. I've got my Cobra Commander, and then this is sort of my area. We got.
So I did a little bit of a Google search just to see if there were any other people who have made this connection that Lin-Manuel Miranda seems to be a pretty big G.I. Joe fan. And I came across this video of him. I'm assuming it was around the time they were doing In the Heights. I believe the video was dated 2008, 2009, where he's playing with dominoes and a Cobra Commander toy. So not only is he wearing the shirt and he has a poster on the wall, he's also playing with the actual dolls. And I came across this tweet where he says he's using, you know, those things that come in the pizza delivery boxes that keep the top of the box from pressing down into the pizza. He would use those to make little cafes for his G.I. Joe dolls, so they wouldn't, so they'd have a place to sit. Now here's the rub. Here's where it gets interesting. I came across another tweet from 2015 where Lin-Manuel Miranda said he was walking out of the live action, recollecting when he walked out of the live action G.I. Joe movie, and he said to his friends that I can do better than that, or we can do better than that, which is something a fan would say. I know a lot of people like myself grew up with the G.I. Joe cartoon, and the movies, the live action movies, were a little lackluster. I mean, for what they were supposed to be fun, but they didn't catch the real vibe of the 80s cartoon. And now we have a new one coming around the corner, Snake Eyes, which totally, even from the poster, I don't like it, because one of the big things about Snake Eyes was that he was a mystery. No one ever saw his face, and he wore his mask all the time. And on the poster of the new Snake Eyes, what is he doing? He doesn't even have his mask on. It's the back side of his face. And I think that's like the whole thing like what they did with the Joker movie. You know, the Joker's not supposed to have an origin. So the Joker movie to me is blasphemy. It's not canon, and neither is this upcoming Snake Eyes movie. So once again, back to the rub. Lin-Manuel Miranda said that he can make a better G.I. Joe movie. And the most recent G.I. Joe movie up to that point, when he made that tweet in 2015, was a 2013 release of G.I. Joe Retaliation, directed by a John Chu. Now, hopefully you'll see where I'm going with this. Now, they just released In the Heights, both in theaters and on HBO Max. Who is the movie directed by, In the Heights? Directed by a Mr. John Chu, exactly. So I'm wondering, with Lin-Manuel Miranda and his love of G.I. Joe, did he speak to John Chu? Did he say that quite possibly he can direct a better movie? So that being said, I think Lin-Manuel Miranda certainly has the geek cred, and now enough pull in Hollywood definitely, to direct the G.I. Joe movie. And I don't think it's beneath him. I think he has enough pull and enough passion as a nerd to give us a G.I. Joe movie. So what do you say, Lin-Manuel? Give us what we want. Give us what you want. Thanks for watching. Don't be a stranger.
I was walking down one of the neatest streets in New York City. Lucky for him, he has his black belt in karate. Do. Oh. Take that.